So this tip involves using the offset function and the COUNTA function in combination to set up a dynamic print range, which you may find useful if you have an area of your worksheet that you're printing out and the content changes in terms of the geographical space it takes up. You could have a pivot table that you want to print out, and depending upon the filters employed, it could take up 5 rows, it could take up 50 rows. So this will enable you to set up a dynamic print range that accommodates whatever size area the data takes up. So the first thing we're going to do is select a cell and insert a print area. Go into the page layout group, page setup, left-clicking print area, left-clicking set print area. Now Excel doesn't like it when you set up a single cell as a print area, but that's okay because all we need to do is to define a print area, which we're going to manipulate the size of using the offset and the COUNTA function. So going to the Formulas tab, in the Name Manager, we see the print area that we just set up. Sheet 139, cell C13. Well, I'm going to select all of that to the right of the equal sign and delete it. And I want to point out the fact that it is an equal sign. So this print area can actually be defined by a formula, and that's what we're about to do. We're going to use the offset function to define this print area. The offset function begins at a reference point, and I'm going to define that reference point to be K4, which I'm going to make an absolute reference by pressing F4. From that reference point, we can then determine an offset by defining a number of rows or a number of columns. But I don't want to offset the beginning point at all. So I'm going to make the number of rows that we offset, comma, 0, and the number of columns, comma, 0 as well. The next thing we want to do is define the height. And this is where we're going to use the COUNTA function. The COUNTA function counts the number of cells that are not empty, that contain content. And I want it to count the number of cells that contain content in column K. In fact, the entire column K, which I'm going to input by inputting a K, colon, K, and again, pressing F4 to make that an absolute reference. So that's going to return however many cells there are that contain values. For the width, comma, I can use a COUNTA function to determine the width as well, but I'm not going to. I'm going to hard code the width to be 5 columns. After completing that, I'm going to left-click this checkbox to assign that formula to the print area, close this dialog box, and press Control-P. So I have a print area that's defined by the content, which neatly fits on the top of one page. I'm going to escape to go back into the workbook, press Control-C, and copy this content down a number of rows. Going back to Control-P, I now have a print job that takes up 5 pages. Escaping to go back into the workbook, I can delete that content, go back to Control-P, and I'm back to 1 page. So the number of rows in this print job will be defined by the content that's in column K. And there are some refinements that you can make to this formula depending upon the way your data is presented in your worksheet. But it's a nice way to have a print range set so that it'll accommodate the data that you want to actually print out.